Jaya Vijayanam Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Punya Vihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Punya Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Punya Vihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha, Gidari Radha, Gidari Radha, Jaya Radha, Giri Hari Radha, Giri Hari Radha, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Bala Dev, Jaya Sundara, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Giri Govardhan, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Gurudev, Shri Shri Radha Giri, Shri Gosai, Shri Radha Sundara, Viraj Maharaj, Yashotopat, God Bhakti, So I'd like to welcome everyone to this morning's Bhagavatam class. We'll start with the reading of from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Abhay Prabhu is sharing the screen. So I did this. Okay. Reading from Chaitanya, reading from Srila Prabhupada Viramitra. Chapter is entitled New Delhi, Crying Alone in the Wilderness. This is page 169. Abhay's son Vrindavan came to live with him for a few months at the Gaudiya Sangha. There was no question of Abhay's returning to his family, and Vrindavan simply associated with his father, following the routine of the mutt and helping Abhay in his duties. One day, a prominent advocate, the president of the Hindu Mahasabha, paid an unexpected visit to the Gaudiya Sangha. The mutt was mostly visited, and there was no prasadam on hand. So Abhay and Vrindavan received the prominent guest, cooking for him, offering him prasadam, and acquainting him with the activities of the Sangha. When Abhay wasn't busy managing the disorganized matter and working on the Gaudiya Patrika and Sajjana Tosani, he spent his time preparing a Hindi translation of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Although he was more accustomed to writing in English and Bengali, he assumed that as long as he was preaching in Hindi-speaking areas, such a book would be important. Bhakti Sharanga Goswami wrote that he wanted to print only 500 copies of the Sajjana Tosani for the September issue. But Abhay wanted to print more. After making an agreement with the printer that the charges would be the same for 1,000 copies as for 500, he wrote to Bhakti Sharanga Goswami, informed him of the good news. Abhay also told him that he had recently secured a donation of printing paper and that he had arranged for 1 quota reduction in the postal charges. So why, for the matter of saving some paper, we shall not print the full number? In my opinion, we should print more than 1,000 copies every month and distribute them in large numbers. But Bhakti Sangha replied that, through a brief postcard that they should print no more than 500. Excuse me. After Abhay continued his attempt to improve Sajjana Tosani. For him, it was not a perfunctory duty, but absorbing preaching. In a letter to Bhakti Sharanga Goswami, he expressed anxiety or waiting for him to send article for next issue. Funds were scarce, so scarce that Abhay had no decent duty. And yet he continued to envision a glorious future for Sajjana Tosani. I wish to see this paper just to the standard of illustrated weekly, with numerous pictures in order to make it very popular literature And for this, I wish to move myself to secure subscribers as well as advertisers. I wish to give good businessmen, insurance companies, and government offices in this connection, but I have no proper dress at all. I want two sets of good dresses in order to take up this responsibility, and I shall be glad to hear your decision on this matter. It is my heart's desire that this paper is improved to the highest elevation. Thank you. I will stop here. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So much austerity. Shri Prabhupada not having enough dhoti even to meet guests, and he's requesting money to buy dhotis. In such a situation, Prabhupada preached so nicely. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Prabhupada Dhamitra ki jai. So we'll move to the verse for this morning. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Skutam Dharam Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jagdaryat Vasaprayastu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Sloke Bhakti Bhakti Ahitati. So this morning verse is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, verse 47. I'll just read the verse, then devotees can repeat one by one. Hiranyakasipu chapi Bhagavan Nindaya Tamaha Vivikshu Utyagat Sunaho Praladasya Anubhavata. Hiranyakasipu chapi Bhagavan Nindaya Tamaha Vivikshu Utyagat Sunaho Praladasya Anubhavata. Hare Krishna, any devotees like to take turn to recite?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Nanda Pranam, welcome, thank you.
Yanna Kashi Pushchapi Bhagavan Nindaya Tama Vivukshurattaya Suno Praladasya Anubhavata. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else would like to recite?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I am also trying.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yanna Kashipuschapi Bhagavan Nindaya Tamaha Adhavata.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Madi. Go ahead.
Hiranyakashipuschapi Bhagavan Nindaya Tamaha Vivikshuratyagat Sunaha Praladasya Anubhavata.
Anybody else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. I am also trying.
Thank you, Madi.
Hiranyakashipuschapi Bhagavan Nindaya Tamaha Vivikshuratyagat Sunaha Prahaladasya Anubhavataha. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll go to the synonyms. Anybody who would like to do the synonyms?
Hiranyakashipu, the father of Prahlad Maharaj. Cha, also, Api, again, Bhagavat, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Indaya, by blaspheming, Tamaha, in the darkest region of hellish life, Vivikshu, entered, Atyagat, was delivered, Shunaha, of his son, Prahaladasya, of Maharaja Prahlad, Anubhavataha, by the influence of Hare Krishna.
Okay, then anybody like to read the translation?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat
Yes,
Pranam.
please go ahead.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu, who by dint of his sinful activities always defied the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, entered into the darkest region of hellish life. But by the grace of his great son, Prahlad Maharaj, who also was delivered and went back home, back to Godhead.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. It's a very nice translation. Really. Anyone would like to try the purport?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Go ahead.
When Prahlad Maharaj was offered benediction by Narasimhadev due to his great devotion and tolerance, he refused to accept any benediction from the Lord, thinking that such acceptance was not befitting a sincere devotee. The rendering of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in expectation of a good reward is deprecated by Prahlad Maharaj as mercantile business. Because Prahlad Maharaj was a Vaishnava, he did not ask a benediction for his personal self, but was very affectionate toward his brother. Although his father tortured him and would have killed him had he himself had not been killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlad Maharaj begged pardon for him from the Lord. This favor was immediately granted by the Lord, and Hiranyakasipu was delivered from the darkest region of hellish life, and he returned back home, back to Godhead, by the grace of his son. Prahlad Maharaj is the topmost example of a Vaishnava, who is always compassionate toward sinful persons suffering a hellish life within this material world. Krishna is therefore known as Paradukka Dukhi Kripa Bundi, or one who is compassionate towards others' suffering and who is an ocean of mercy. Like Prahlad Maharaj, all pure devotees of the Lord come to this material world with full compassion to deliver the sinful. They undergo all kinds of tribulations, suffering them with tolerance, because that is another qualification of a Vaishnava who tries to deliver all sinful persons from the hellish conditions of material existence. Vaishnavas are therefore offered the following prayer. Vancha kalpatrupyascha kripa sindhuvayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. The chief concern of a Vaishnava is to deliver the fallen souls.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Om Jnana Tamidasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuramitam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manodistam Stapitam Yana Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Vidati Sa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Savitam Sagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savabhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Savana Lalita Sri Vishakavitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopisa Gopisakanta Radhavanta Namaste Tattakanchana Gaurani Radhavinda Vrishwari Vishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamam Hripriye Vanchagatpadruvyascha Kipasindhuve Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pstaya Bhutale Shrimati Tama Krishna Dasan Vinamini Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pstaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Dasan Vinamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pachari Nivishesha Shanivadi Krishnapadi Satani. Sari Krishna, welcome again everyone. Thank you Mataji for giving this opportunity to say a few words on this very important verse. And I'm not qualified, and I'm just doing this for my own purification. So if there's any omission or missing or any errors, please come forward to rectify it as soon as possible. Thank you, Hare Krishna. So we have been reading this chapter for some time, instruction by Prithu Maharaj, chapter 21. Very, very enlightening chapter and very important of so many chapters dedicated to Prithu Maharaj Katha. I think this was Prithu Maharaj Katha is one of the longest in the Bhagavatam. In I think 10 canto, there are 90 chapters allocated to glorious pastime Lord Krishna. And here in Prithu Maharaj, we see, I think, starting from chapter 13 to coming up chapter 24 something, there were total of 13 chapters dedicated to this pastime. So why is this so important? Why is Parikshit Maharaj so eager to hear this pastime of Prithu Maharaj? And one of the main reasons is this: Prithu Maharaj is the original king, and he's giving a standard for the future kings to follow. And because in future kings will come and they'll have this reference how a king should rule his kingdom, how he should look after his subject. So in these chapters, so much instruction for the leaders of the world. And going by the current situation, if the leaders just read this, especially chapter 21, they'll be very much benefited in ruling the kingdom. So just recapping, in this chapter, we will read chapter 21 starts with Pitu Maharaj coming to do yagna for the benefit of his subject. And he gives very nice instruction to his subject, the duties of the king. He said that the main duty of the king is to engage his subject in proper employment according to the Varna and Ashrama. And then all these subjects are encouraged to offer their fruits or to the Supreme Lord, Lord Shri Krishna. By doing so, he said there's a mutual benefit for the king and also for the subject. Because by this Bhakti Yoga, by offering devotional service to the Lord, the king is also benefited and also the subjects are benefited. The sum and substance of King Pitu's instruction is this: all the subjects, some or other, by in their proper Varna and Ashrama, should be engaged in devotional service. How the king benefits? He says the king inherits the pious activities of the subject, and also he inherits the impious activities of the subject. So it says the 1/6 of the activities of the subject the king inherits, and also 1/6 the impious activities, all his subject, the king also inherits. So if the subjects are properly taken care of and they're very pious and they are doing devotional service, the king automatically gets the benefit of the greater lot of benefit of the pious activity. And similarly, this in vice versa, if the subject are impious, then the king inherits their karma and also suffers. So it's mutually beneficial for the subject to follow this Varnashrama Dharma and do devotional service. So leading up to that, in this chapter, we see that the glories of the Brahmanas and Vaishnava are very much glorified. We see in the previous chapter, Tulsiya Mataji glorified the Brahmanas qualities, and yesterday we heard Anangalata Mataji describe how Anga, Vina, the son of Anga, was so eventually benefited by the story of Pritha Maharaj. So such nice description. So this is leading up to this, towards the end of the chapter. Now, Maitreya Muni is telling Vidura Maharaj the benefit of a putra who can rescue his father. In the previous verse we saw yesterday, Ananga Mataji explained how Vina was rescued. And now in this verse, we see Hiranyakasipu being rescued by his great son, great devotee, Srila Prahlad Maharaj. So as we see here, Prabhupada starts saying that although Prahlad Maharaj was such an elevated devotee, and the Lord offered him any benediction he wished, but Prahlad Maharaj refused to take any benediction that way materially motivated or that was not beneficial for his advancement in spiritual life. So he says, Prahlad is thinking, Prabhupada is giving a very nice explanation here. The rendering of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in expectation of a good reward is deprecated by Prahlad Maharaj as mercantile business. Because Prahlad Maharaj was a Vaishnava, he did not ask a benediction for his personal self, but was very affectionate towards his father. Although his father tortured him and would have killed him, had he himself not been killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlad Maharaj begged pardon for him from the Lord. This is very instructive. Initially, when we start devotional service, everybody has some expectation, at least some improvement in material life, in the health. So this is Mishra Bhakti. But as the devotee advances to this stage where Prahlad is now, then they have no expectation for any devotional service done to the Lord. So this is a very high level of devotional service. We come to the pure devotional service. So we see some example of this. Devotees who are at this stage come, and although the Lord is offering so many benediction, they are not accepting. But we see a similar incident in the case of Dhruva Maharaj. Although he started off with some material expectation, he wanted the kingdom greater than his grandfather, and he went to such intense devotional service, meditation, and he was able to see the Lord face to face. But when he saw the Lord, he felt he felt ashamed for having this desire to have a kingdom greater than his grandfather. So in this case, he said, "Oh, I have come here to ask for like something like a broken glass instead of the diamonds and the great jewels available." So he felt ashamed, and he actually took a corrective action. So the lesson we learn here, we are doing devotional service, and most of us, and including we are in a stage of Mishra Bhakti. We have some expectation, but as the devotees move further and further, come to a pure stage, then there is no expectation. Only desire is to please the Lord, some or other. So this is really exemplified with the gopis. Here in the instruction of Prahlad Maharaj, the glories of Prahlad Maharaj is described in the Canto 7 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlad pacified the Lord with prayers. And then here we see the Prahlad is receiving the benediction. After he offered so many nice prayers, I'm just reading some of the translation from the 7 Canto, chapter 9, from verse 51 onwards. The great saint Nanda said, "Thus Lord Nrsimhadev was specified by the devotee Prahlad with prayers offered from the transcendental platform. The Lord gave up his anger, and being very kind to Prahlad, who was offering prostrated obeisances, he spoke as follows. The Supreme Personal God said, 'My dear Prahlad, most gentlemen, best of the family of the Asuras, all good fortune unto you. I am very much pleased with you. It is my pastime to fulfill the desires of all living entities, all living beings, and therefore you may ask from me any benediction that you desire to be fulfilled.'" The Lord is being so pleased, he's giving a like open check, just say what you want. And Nrsimhadev is saying, "I'll fulfill the desire." Then he says, "My dear Prahlad, may you live a long time. One cannot appreciate or understand me without pleasing me, but one who has seen or pleased me has nothing more for which to lament for his own satisfaction. My dear Prahlad, you are very fortunate. Please know from me that those who are very wise and highly elevated try to please me in all different modes of manners, for I am the only person who can fulfill the desires of everyone." After this, Prahlad actually says, "Oh, I don't have like a mercantile dealing because I have done something, I need some validation." This is the business dealing. In the business situation, a person goes to a business person, offers some service, and in return, he gets some benediction, some monetary benefit. So this is not a nice thing to have similar situation in our devotional service. So Prahlad refused all this, and he told the Lord, he is Prahlad's translation. Prahlad Maharaj said, My dear Lord, O Supreme Person of Godhead, I was born in an atheistic family. I am naturally attached to material enjoyment. Therefore, kindly do not tempt me with this illusion. I am very much afraid of material condition, and I desire to be liberated from the materialistic life. It is for this reason that I have taken shelter of your Lord's feet. O my worshipful Lord, because the seed of lusty desires, which is the root cause of materialism, is within the core of every heart, you have sent me to this material world to exhibit the symptoms of a pure devotee. Otherwise, O my Lord, O Supreme Instructor of the entire world, you are so kind to your devotee that you could not induce him to do something unbeneficial for him. On the other hand, one who desires some material benefit in exchange for devotional service cannot be your pure devotee. Indeed, he is no better than a merchant who wants profit in exchange of service. As a servant who desires material profit from the master is certainly not qualified servant or pure devotee. Similarly, a master who bestows benediction upon his servant because he desires to maintain a prestigious position as a master is also not pure master. Then he said a very amazing verse in this chapter. Oh my Lord, I am your unmotivated servant and you are my eternal master. Therefore, there is no need for our being anything other than master and servant. You are naturally my master and naturally your servant. We have no other relationship. So Prahlad Maharaj sums it up. He is an eternal servant. And the Supreme Lord, Prashimdev, is his eternal master. Jivar Sarup Hare Krishna Nityadas. So this is really exemplified by Prahlad Maharaj, what stage he was in. So he was not interested in mercantile business with the Lord. Well, although he did not want this benediction, the Lord pushed him again, have something. Then after great mercy, great compassion for his father, who was so sinful, he asked that he be rescued. Here Srila Prabhupada said, this is the sum and substance of a devotee, that Jiva-daya, one should be very, very compassionate to a materialistic person who is suffering this hellish condition of life. And here's extreme example. Prabhupada is so nicely explained that the quality of a devotee is to be compassionate. So this is a cornerstone. So we can see in the case of acharyas like Srila Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, we heard some time back how once Jiva Goswami defeated a person, big Pandita, who wanted to have a debate with Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. And when Srila Sanatana Goswami, when Srila Rupa Goswami heard this, he banished Srila Jiva Goswami. He said, this is not the mood of the Vaishnava. We are not here to debate. We know eternal service to the Lord. Because you have done this, I don't receive it. So in that great anxiety, we see that Srila Jiva Goswami goes in the forest and lives in a hole of a tree. And when Sanatana Goswami hears this, he comes to Srila Rupa Goswami. He asked Srila Rupa Goswami, what is the most important thing for a devotee? He said, Jiva-daya and most important is Jiva-daya. So he said, are you practicing this? And I'm practicing this. So why then Srila Sanatana Goswami asked him, why have you banished Jiva Goswami? Then he realized that he has not done well. So then after this, Srila Rupa Goswami recalls Jiva Goswami back to the service. So we can see Jiva-daya is a cornerstone of Vaishnava philosophy. One who practices is very, very dear to the Lord. And here Srila Prabhupada gives, Srila Prabhupada glorifies Srila Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj is the topmost example of Vaishnava who is always compassionate to a sinful person suffering a hellish life within this material world. Krishna, therefore, is known as Paradukha Dukhi, Pipa Buddhi. or one who is compassionate toward others' suffering and who is an ocean of mercy. So a devotee has such a empathic nature. He can feel the pangs and the suffering of a materialistic person, and because of great compassion, he wants to rescue them. So Prahlad Maharaj is one top example. We see in the Shastra, there are many examples. We see even Jesus Christ, Prabhupada glorifies him because he wants to take the sinful activities of the suffering humanity so they can become elevated to the personal service. Very compassionate. Then we see in the case of great Acharya, like Srila Ramanujacharya, we have heard that he was such a compassionate Acharya. Once he wanted to learn a particular mantra from another great Acharya, and this Acharya was not giving this mantra to anybody. So in great humility, Srila Ramanujacharya approached this Acharya for 17 times, and then even being refused. Excuse me. So when he approached this Acharya for the 18th time, the Acharya made a condition. He said, this mantra is very confidential. No one should hear about it. I'm only giving it to you because you have great humility and qualification. But I'm giving this you. Giving you this mantra on one condition: they will not diverge this mantra to anybody on any condition. So this Acharya gave this mantra to Ramanujacharya, and just by hearing this mantra, Ramanujacharya became so pure. His body started glowing. He became ecstatic with the love of God. So after this meeting, Ramanujacharya was going out. He was going out, and then he thought, this mantra is so powerful. Why should not everybody benefit it? And then, because he's so much compassion, he went to a balcony of a temple, and he gathered all the town people and gave this mantra. Said, everybody chant this mantra. When this mantra was given out, all the devotees, anybody who came to hear this mantra, receive this mantra, they became ecstatic. They start rolling on the ground, crying, jumping, and Ramanujacharya was so happy. However, when the Acharya who had given this mantra heard of this, he was very angry. He was very disappointed. So, and when Ramanujacharya heard this, he went back to the Acharya and apologized. But Acharya said, look, I gave this mantra on this condition, so why did you break it? What will happen to you now that you've broken this promise? So Ramanujacharya, I know what is the result of this breaking my guarantee. He said, I'll be rotting in hell for many lifetimes because I had disobeyed you. So he said, Acharya said, that in spite of knowing this, why did you break it? Why did you break this promise? So Ramanujacharya said, look, I'm an insignificant jiva. If by distributing this mantra, so many jivas become elevated, liberated, then what is the use? One insignificant person like me can rot in hell, but all these people will be liberated. So when Acharya heard this, he was amazed by Ramanuja's mercy and compassion, and he forgave him, and then Ramanuja became preaching this mission. So it's such a great humility, such a great compassion. So then we have other acharyas. We have there's another acharya in Chaitanya Charitamrita. One second. Yes, in Chaitanya Charitamrita we hear Srila Vasudeva Datta Thakur. This is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita Leela, chapter 15, verse 163. Jivere papaleno muni koran naraka bhoga sakala jivera prabhu guchala bhava roga. My dear Lord, let me suffer perpetually in hellish condition, accepting all sinful reaction of all living entities. Please finish this diseased material condition. So Srila Vasudeva Datta Thakur was so compassionate when he saw the suffering of the material people. He approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, please, all these sinful activities all performed by all these living beings, please give it to me. I cannot bear the suffering of these people. And so by my taking all these sinful activities, they have become liberated. I have this desire. When Lord Chaitanya heard this, his heart became so soft. He started crying and trembling. And he said, Vasudeva Datta, you are the topmost devotee. Just by your desire, this will just happen. You don't have to suffer this. So we can see such great compassion of Vasudeva Datta, the cornerstone of Vaishnava philosophy, compassion, mercy for the living entities. He was willing to take all the sinful activities, all the living entities, and then he was willing to rot in hell by taking this sinful activities. Such intense compassion. In this verse, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj has commented that although Jesus Christ was accepting the sinful activities of his followers or disciples, they were not being elevated. So in this case of Vasudeva Datta, he was not only accepting their, willing to accept their sinful activity, but he was also willing, he was asking the Lord to liberate them, to ask them to go back to Godhead. So in one case, taking sinful activities is very elevated, very magnanimous, very compassionate. But after sinful activity, if the devotee doesn't progress further, doesn't elevate himself to devotional service, they can again fall down. So we see in Christianity, they go to Sunday class, Sunday mass, and then they take this, they ask for forgiveness for their sinful activity, and again go out and do sinful activities. As if Jesus Christ had taken a contract to take all the sinful activity. Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj really condemn this sort of mood of the disciple of Jesus Christ. But in case of Vasudeva Datta, he wants them to not only take this sinful activity, but they want them to be elevated and ask them to go back to Godhead. So by their such a sincere, compassionate nature, we see their compassion is being exemplified. And here we also see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is the topmost devotee, most magnanimous incarnation of the Lord. He has come to rescue all the sinful people from the material world by giving this Mahamantra. We know the Mahamantra not only cleanses the heart, Cheta Darpana Mahajanam, but also get rid of the desire to commit further sinful activities. This is the big difference between a normal mantra and this Mahamantra. This Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, is such a treasure house of love that just by chanting this, any devotee, any even material person, just by chanting this, the desire, the sinful activities are eradicated, and the desire to create, do more sinful activity is also extinguished. So we in the Chaitanya Charitamrita describe how this happens. Srila Prabhupada has explained that eradicating sinful activity is just like pulling out the weed. Sometimes we take out the weed, which is like sinful activity, it breaks, the root goes still inside the soil. So when under suitable condition, have rain, sunshine, and the root will, because the root still inside the soil, it grow again into another weed. So the root cause hasn't been eliminated. So, but what this Mahamantra does is that it eliminates or it kills the desire for sinful activity. So what is in comparison, Srila Prabhupada explained, it's like taking the seed, the root from the root of the weed from the soil, killing it completely. There's no any portion of it left, so there's no further sinful activity. So this Mahamantra not only cleanses the heart of all the sinful reaction and desires, but also kills the desire for further sinful activity. So once that is done, then the devotee can come to a higher platform. So this is a big difference. The magnanimity, nature of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So much compassion. He gave this, distributed this Mahamudra indiscriminately. If there's a treasure house, he said, just come and plunder it. Anybody, anywhere, anytime, no condition. So by this great mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we have this modern day Paradukha situation with Srila Prabhupada. So much compassion that he, at this advanced age, he went to the West to follow the instruction of his spiritual master, and he distributed his love of God as given by Lord Chaitanya indiscriminately, everywhere, any place throughout the world. And by his mercy, his such compassion, we see the result coming out. So many living in the taking of this Krishna consciousness and being saved from the materialistic life. So very modern example, how by following the footsteps of the acharyas, one can also give this love of Godhead to anybody, and show this compassionate nature of Srila Prahlad Maharaj. So these are some of the examples. There are many, many examples in the Vaishnavas who just by the, they cannot tolerate the suffering of the humanity, and they go out and preach this wonderful Krishna consciousness activities to the Lord. So at least some devotees or some reluctant jivas can be reclaimed back to Godhead. This is the compassion. So in this verse, Srila Prabhupada is really glorifying the compassionate nature of the Lord. So in this case, Prahlad Maharaj's father, Hiranyakasipu, has such evil, so much cruel personality, so much so that he also wanted to kill his own son, who was a devotee. But after having been killed by Lord Nrsimhadev, Prahlad Maharaj was offered his benediction to ask for anything. But Prahlad Maharaj did not want to do this. But when being pushed by the Lord Nrsimhadev, he said, I don't have anything personal desires for materialist life, but I have only one concern. My father, Hiranyakasipu, has been extremely cruel, extremely, we could say, disaster. Please, if you can rescue him. So just he was not asking for his own elevation, but he was, because he could see Hiranyakasipu had done so much sinful activity. His life was destined to be in a hellish condition. Just out of his mercy, he asked a lot for this one benediction. And the Lord appreciated it. And he just said, okay, because you're my purity, it is done. He told Prahlad, you don't need to worry. Just by my touch, he has been elevated. He has been gone back to Godhead. So this affinity to elevate our parents or our forefathers is a recurring theme in Srimad Bhagavatam. We see also in case of Dhruva Maharaj, having got the darshan of a Lord Vishnu, and it was, and he was being elevated, he was being taken back to Godhead in the Vimanas by the Vishnu Dutas, but he was feeling vacant. He said, wait, what about my mother? And then he saw the Vishnu Dutas showed him that his mother was falling in another Vimana in the back. So by his mercy, he could he also rescued his mother. So here we see Prahlad Maharaj rescuing his father Hiranyakasipu. In the previous verse yesterday, Anandalata Mataji described how Vina, a most cruel king, was also rescued by his son, Vishnu Maharaj. And then we see the case of Prahlad Maharaj. So this is a recurring theme. And even modern day, we have these examples of Prabhupada disciples. I was reading some time back in the Back to Godhead magazine, one Mataji describing how her father was saved. This, I don't remember the details of the names, but this Mataji was come from a very well-to-do family, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. They were serving in Vrindavan for some time. And then his father got bedridden. His mother has passed away, and the father was very, very strong personality, like American, very passionate. He didn't have anybody assisting him, but he became extremely bedridden, and Mati came to serve him. Initially, he was very reluctant to take any service, but eventually, slowly, he became comfortable because he was extremely incapable of doing anything himself. So the daughter was serving so nicely, giving prasadam, chanting, but not preaching directly. So eventually, the father became a bit more favorable. And one time he was just on a deathbed, and he became frightened. He said, "Oh, these things are coming to take me." He could, and the daughter said, "What's happening?" He said, "All these very, very ghostly type of people are coming to take me. I'm very frightened." And the Lord, and then the daughter said, "Don't worry, just chant Hare Krishna mantra." So when he did that, everything disappeared. And towards the end, he just before dying, he got up and said, I can see something in passed away. So by the devotee parents, because they've given their life raising the children and serving the future devotees, they also get benefited. And by doing this, the parents also get rescued. Sometimes the parents are not very favorable, but unknowingly, because the devotees are very, very elevated, and by the mercy of the acharyas and Srila Prabhupada and the Sri Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the parents automatically get elevated. So this is like a side benefit, of devotional service. Even the parents who are not very favorable, here in case of Prahlad Maharaj, they also benefit. So, we see so many examples. There are other examples we can, in modern Srila Prabhupada disciple, their parents get benefited. We see in the case of His Holiness Radhanath Swami, his father came to Bombay. He was quite impressed and how he was benefited. And we see in case of His Holiness Viraj Maharaj, his parents were actually met Srila Prabhupada, and they also were elevated. So by giving their son in the service of Srila Prabhupada, the acharyas show their mercy on them, and they also get elevated. Such nice instance. So just to wrap up, in this verse today, we see how Vina, who was very, very cruel king, was rescued by his son Vitha Maharaj. And in this case, today's verse, we see how Prahlad Maharaj showed great compassion and rescued his father Hiranyakashipu. So there's no shortage of benediction by devotional service. Although one may not ask for it directly, the Lord sees within a heart and take care of the devotees and their family members. So what are the take-home points? One should serve the Lord without expectation of any material desires. Devotional service has to be done without, should be unmotivated and continuous. So Prahlad Maharaj, the examples like Prahlad Maharaj, Ramanujacharya, Srila Prabhupada, and here we have Vasudeva Datta exemplified this. So today's verse is coming towards the end of this chapter 21. And after describing all the duties of the king and how Anga, whose son was Vina, was disgusted by his son's cruelty, he left the kingdom. And eventually Vina became the king, and the sages installed him as a king, but he became so unpopular because of his cruelty. The sages killed him. But by killing Vina, the sages managed to produce this. By churning his thighs, they produce Nisada, who are tribal people who are thieves and rogues. But after churning the arms, the two persons came, Pitha Maharaj and Archi. So in this verse, we can see how Vina did offense to the Brahmanas and what was his result. since his son, Pritham Maharaj, did the opposite. He glorified the Brahmins. He took shelter. In previously we heard how compassionate he was, how reliable he was. How he glorified the Vaishnavas and Brahmanas and asked for their blessing, and he became a great king. So on one hand, Veena exemplifies materialist people, atheist people who had no trust or confidence in the Vaishnava way of life. And other side, we see Pritham Maharaj, who was extremely compassionate, glorifying the Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, and become very elevated. So two sides of coin. So devotees, we should know where we should go. Very nice example. So I'll end here. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Time is 19 minutes. Okay, if anybody comments, question, I'm happy to take, or we can get other devotees to comment further if I don't find what anything. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Then we'll come to all the devotees. Thank you very much for the Vaisya. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
From this chapter, instruction of Prithu Maharaj, he so nicely explained the duties of a king. It is not only the king, even his subject. So they are equally important. So subjects and the king, they are all important. If one of them follows each other, the benefit is for all. And you have given the examples, the qualities of Vaishnavas through Dhruva Maharaj and others. And finally, you have given examples of how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our Sikh Goswamis, they did this work not only for them, but also the people in general, those who were fallen. So here I just remember one text from Srinivas Acharya towards the Sikh Goswamis. I read that purport. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sikh Goswamis, namely Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very much enriched in understanding Lord Chaitanya and who are thus expert in narrating his transcendental qualities. They can purify all conditioned souls from the reaction of their sinful activities, and by pouring upon them transcendental songs about Govinda. As such, they are very expert in increasing the limit of the ocean of transcendental bliss, and they are the savior of all living entities from the devouring mouth of the Varishi. So these Goswamis were not doing this work for themselves. It is for the benefit of the people in general, under the instruction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this shows that Vaishnavas are performing their duties not for them, it is for the benefit of all. That's why Srila Prabhupada has managed this ISKCON to show us how this Sankirtan helps not only the devotees but also the people in general. By the congregational chanting, this helps both ways, the fallen souls and the devotees as well. And that's all from Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for your comment, Chaitanya Prabhu. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Any comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Nice class. It's good to know about that devotional qualification and devotee's quality. And I told that, if that father is not devotee, but if his son is devotee, like Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj, so they are, 14 generation is elevated or liberated. So what about that? Those their kids, means their next generation is not in that devotee, how they will be liberated and how they will become to in the Krishna consciousness. Parents are devotees, but their kids are not devotees. What's your realization and suggestion for them, please.
Okay, very nice question. Because the scriptures cannot be wrong. So it's surely they'll be elevated, they'll be liberated. But in this case, the Acharyas don't, or the scripture doesn't give a time frame. Okay, so eventually they'll be liberated, maybe next life or a life after that, but eventually they'll be liberated. So 14th generation before and 14th generation after.
Oh.
So it may take some time because time is a bit relative. So if they are not doing sadhana at the moment, time will come by the mercy of their parents and upbringing. One day they'll realize there's not much to do in the material life. There's no happiness. And once they have this understanding or realization, eventually they'll live all the materialistic way of life and become devotees. So it's a matter of time, and the mercy of the Vaishnavas is infinite. We cannot measure. So yes, there's no time frame. But scripture said they will become devotees, they'll be liberated. So we just need to be patient and they'll do it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Subaladas, maybe somebody can correct me. I think in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya called Vasudeva Datta. You are Prahlad Maharaj. Is it? Can somebody correct me?
Yeah, that is correct, Prabhu. He said you are incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. Vasudeva Datta was an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj, and because he is incarnation, he has this great compassion for the suffering of the living entities. He want to take all their sinful activity upon him and get them liberated. Yes, it is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He is an incarnation of Prahlad Maharaj. Thank you, Prabhu, for this good point.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Very nice class, particularly bringing out the qualities of a Vaishnava who are most eager to liberate the other people who are suffering and who do not know what they are suffering. That is their condition. But the Vaishnavas know that they are suffering, and he is very keen to liberate them.
Thank you, Prabhu. So anybody else?
Given very nice example of Vasudeva Datta. It is the first verse of it is the fourth verse of the first chapter of Adi Lila, where it is said, Anarpito Chorin Chira Korunaya Avudrina Palo. In fact, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come in this world to liberate the people in this age of Kali, where people are mostly, with very short age, and their intelligence is less. And in this life, he has given a very cheap method of going back to Godhead. And not only that, he has himself shown us how one has to serve the Lord by showing himself and the example. He's showing us how a devotee should act, and his mission was to save the whole world. And that is why all the devotees of all these ISKCON, which we are following the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are also keen to see that not only we are liberated, we should see that others are also liberated. That no one remain outside the purview of the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and in a very easy way we can go back to Godhead in this life. What was difficult in other ages, only by chanting the holy names, in a pure chanting, we can go back to Godhead. And that is the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all his devotees. And in the recent times, Prabhupada has given us this. He has tried to spread it to the whole world so that no one remains outside the purview of it. And that is the Vaishnava's blessings. And we should take advantage of it. And we should all.
It's a wonderful comment, Prabhu. Yes. Lord Chaitanya is the most efficient incarnation of the Lord, most efficient, most kind, most compassionate.
And that's why when the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Om Namo Mahapadannaya, he is the most merciful among all the avatars of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
And Srila Prabhu has given this wonderful method of how we can be compassionate by going in Harinam, book distribution, Prashadam distribution. So this there's a method, a process. We can
Yes.
also show this mercy and be part of the movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prahlad Maharaj in modern day. We can be instrument of their mercy. There's no shortage of method we cannot take part. You just have to take a bit of time out and do this activity, and the result is phenomenal. That's all. Anybody else, any comments before we end? There doesn't seem to be any comments, so we'll end here. One chapter for the
Kripa Sindhu Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Brindo ki jai. His Grace Nanda Vraja Prabhu ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna. Jai.